In 1998, sometime around May, the once peaceful Arklay Mountains, a regular destination for travelers seeking to explore the wildlands of the Arklay County, would under mysterious and unknown circumstances suddenly become a point of no return for any hikers that ventured into the area. Puzzled by these sudden disappearances, the officers of the Raccoon City Police Department remained clueless as to how and why these people kept disappearing, and as report after report of people going missing began piling up within the department, the pressure from the public to find the missing hikers began to mount. However, it wouldn't take long before one of the hikers turned up again, just not in the way that anyone had hoped or expected. The body of a young woman was discovered near a small settlement by the name of S.T.A.R.S, having been washed down the Marble River, suspected to have fallen in much further upstream, somewhere in the mountainous area. Badly bruised from the strong current and rapids, the woman had also been mutilated, her body mangled from deep tears, lacerations and bite marks, leaving her in a state that made her almost unrecognizable. Identified as one of the missing hikers due to her wearing a hiking boot on her one remaining foot, the police initially suspected her death to have been caused by an encounter with a grizzly bear in the wild, yet that would prove not to be the case. In the following months, numerous people were discovered killed within the area of Raccoon Forest. At the same time, outlandish reports suggested that several families had been attacked within their homes in the areas of the Arklay Mountains by groups of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten. The Raccoon City Police Department explored the theory that a cult operating under the influence of narcotics ritualistically targeted and killed people in the wildlands before engaging in an occult act of cannibalism. However, the theory ultimately proved a dead end, and with no leads in neither the reason for the strange disappearances nor the bizarre murders, the police chief of the RCPD, Brian Irons, buckled under the increasing pressure from public media and closed all roads leading into the Arklay Mountains before he chose to pass on the investigation to S.T.A.R.S, the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, an elite special forces unit of the police department, hoping that the unit with a larger pool of resources and competence could solve the issue. On the 23rd of July, the 2nd Squad of the S.T.A.R.S unit, also known as Bravo Team, was assigned for a mission within the Arklay Mountains, tasked with finding and stopping the killers active within the area. However, due to a sudden and unexpected engine failure of the team's helicopter over the target area, the unit was forced to perform an emergency landing and crashed into the forest of the Arklay Mountains, after which all contact with the team was lost. With hours of radio silence and no way of contacting the Bravo Team, S.T.A.R.S 1st Unit, Alpha Team, embarked on a mission to re-establish contact with the lost squad of Bravo Team at their last known position. Yet mere moments after establishing visual contact with the downed helicopter of the lost S.T.A.R.S team, which had apparently landed near the esteemed Spencer Mansion, as Alpha Team landed in the forest near the crash site, radio contact with Alpha Team ceased as well. From here on out, all communication with both S.T.A.R.S units were lost. Several hours after the last radio transmission of S.T.A.R.S, a violent explosion shook the countryside of the Arklay Mountains. In the moments after the explosion, as a thick plume of smoke rose from the forest northwest of Raccoon City, the helicopter of S.T.A.R.S Alpha Team returned from their mission. However, upon their return to the RCPD, out of the total of 12 original members from both Bravo and Alpha Team that had embarked on the mission, only 5 officers had made it back alive. Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Brad Vickers, and Rebecca Chambers. The group barged into the office of Police Chief Brian Irons, explaining that the forest in the Arklay Mountains was overrun with twisted creatures and terrible monstrosities, all of them macabre and deformed leftovers from experiments that had escaped from a hidden laboratory beneath the Spencer mansion. The laboratory had been run by the Umbrella Corporation, a company native to Raccoon City and one of the country's leading pharmaceutical manufacturers, for the sole purpose of creating biological weapons. The facility had been conducting research and studies on a multitude of subjects, both humans and animals, trying to create intelligent and controllable bioweapons to be used on the battlefield as a means to end conventional warfare as we knew it. The project had been a highly contagious strain of a virus known as the T-virus, which had the ability to resuscitate dead tissue before bringing it back from the dead, stronger, more aggressive, and with a relentless desire for murder. However, Officer Chambers, the sole survivor of the S.T.A.R.S. Bravo team, recounted that an accident had occurred in the nearby training facility in which the virus had somehow gotten out and infected the staff at the facility, which led to the total collapse of security protocols between the laboratories and ultimately the escape of dozens of infected staff members and animals. It had been these escaped subjects that had been responsible for the many deaths of the hikers and the residents in the area of the Arklay Mountains. Yet, that wasn't all. The group stated that Albert Wesker, their own leader, the very captain of the S.T.A.R.S. Alpha team, had been a mole for the Umbrella Corporation who had purposely sabotaged Bravo team's helicopter with the intention for it to crash before luring the remaining members of S.T.A.R.S. to the Spencer mansion with the sole objective of killing them all. And as the units uncovered during their investigation at the Spencer mansion, Wesker's reasons were many. Wesker had not only been an inside informant for Umbrella, he had also been part of the very research team at the Spencer mansion that had developed the T-virus. After the incident in the underground laboratory, and as Umbrella learned of the increased police efforts in the investigation towards the strange occurrences, Umbrella wanted to not only stop the investigation in its track, but also to destroy any evidence of research or experimentation ever taking place at the Spencer mansion. However, as Wesker himself personally sought to destroy the laboratory, he saw the chaos unfolding as the perfect opportunity for the T-virus. Actual field testing. This would be the first time he and Umbrella could test the creatures and monstrosities against actual trained military personnel. And if the creatures proved their capabilities for warfare, Wesker and Umbrella could further justify the progression of the corporation's research and development into several other promising projects. By luring the police unit to the mansion, Wesker had managed to both directly and indirectly kill half of the S.T.A.R.S. members before pitting them against what he himself had dubbed the ultimate life form. A massive bioweapon classified as the T-002, or Tyrant for short. A giant humanoid creature standing at over 2.5 meters of height and weighing more than 250 kilos. Wesker and Umbrella had bred the creature for combat and intended for it to be mass-produced. However, the creature turned on Wesker and killed him almost immediately after he released it. By the skin of their teeth, the surviving S.T.A.R.S. members managed to kill the creature and escape the mansion before Wesker's initiated self-destruct sequence made the entire compound explode, leaving behind nothing but a smoldering crater and the memories of their fallen comrades. Yet, despite their testimonies, the police chief, Brian Irons, was for some reason not convinced of their stories. Hesitant, almost annoyed. Their calls for an investigation into Umbrella fell on deaf ears, and despite their many years of experience and personal testimonies, the S.T.A.R.S. unit as a whole was almost immediately shut down by the police chief shortly after the incident revolving around the Spencer mansion in the Arklay Mountains. However, the nightmares that the S.T.A.R.S. unit had endured was just the beginning. In the following weeks, furious about the police chief's indecision about taking action against Umbrella, on top of the betrayal he felt by the puzzling shutdown of the S.T.A.R.S unit itself, Chris Redfield struggled to contain his anger and got suspended from duty for assaulting another police officer within the RCPD in a violent fit of rage. Chris Redfield, accompanied by Barry Burton, would ultimately take a leave of absence in Europe following his suspension. Rebecca Chambers would also leave the city, leaving Brad Vickers and Jill Valentine as the only remaining former members of S.T.A.R.S in Raccoon City. Yet Jill, just like Chris, was determined to investigate the company of Umbrella and hold them accountable for their actions. However, her investigation would be cut short, for in the following days, Raccoon City would change and never be the same again. It started as rumors of a strange flu spreading throughout the city. Yet what began as simple word of mouth, hearsay about a sickness causing fever, dizziness, and violent aggression would suddenly spread like a wildfire of panic. Over the course of a single day, rumors turned to horrible realization as people infected with this virus would not just become sick, demented, and violently ill. Upon succumbing to the disease, the infection would bring them back to life, violently aggressive, making them turn on family members and friends, attacking them with a relentlessness that seemed unstoppable unless restrained with lethal force. However, that wasn't the worst part, for any scratch, bite, or wound inflicted by these contaminated subjects would infect their victims with the virus as well, adding yet another subject to the count of infected, and in the span of a few hours, the infection spiraled out of control as the living population of Raccoon City plummeted, ravaged and overtaken by this ferocious force of death that swept through the city before an appropriate official response could even be implemented. Order collapsed as corpses piled up within every apartment, house and street, and while the small desperate police force of Raccoon City, only assisted by the mercenaries of the Umbrella Corporation, did their best to fight back against this rampant infection, they were fighting an uphill battle, losing more and more ground by the minute. A cacophony of gunfire erupted in the streets, yet it didn't take long for the waves of gunshots to turn into smaller barrages, and even shorter before the barrages turned to only sporadic shots of smaller handguns, and finally, the city went all quiet. With the hordes of dead roaming the streets, the police force and Umbrella's mercenaries decimated and in shambles, it would seem that the remaining people within Raccoon City were abandoned by all official authorities and left to fend for themselves. Yet the cause of Raccoon City's infection still remained a mystery to the people. Where had this disease that had crushed their city and their lives suddenly come from? Though rumors were many, and conspiracies even more, nobody knew for certain. That was until a rookie cop by the name of Leon S. Kennedy, along with the sister of Chris Redfield, Claire, arrived in the city and found each other by pure accident. The two were together, forced into this world of the living dead, uncovered the reason for the outbreak, almost at the cost of their own lives. Unfortunately, the answer to the root of the infection would prove of little value and ultimately elude the people of Raccoon City, none the wiser to the reason for the tragedy that had befallen them all. And in the end, the fate of those who either hadn't left or couldn't leave would be sealed by the highest authority of the country, for on the 1st of October 1998, 5 months after the first outbreak of the infection in the lab in the Arklay Mountains, the President of the United States deemed the Raccoon City outbreak uncontainable and would, due to the threat to national security, make the controversial decision to wipe Raccoon City off of the map using an experimental thermal-bearing missile. The explosion would vaporize the entirety of the city, killing each and every soul contained within. The casualties estimated to have been at least 100,000. In the fallout of Raccoon City's destruction, the American government would take immediate action against the Umbrella Corporation, banning it from conducting any sort of business within the United States before liquidating it completely. The corporation was forced to pay out compensation to all victims through lawsuits, and despite the company challenging all of these in court, Umbrella would lose the lawsuit, in which the compensations would completely bankrupt the company. Several companies that were proven to have worked with Umbrella as well, companies such as the VP Corporation and Tricell, would also suffer immense backlash in the aftermath of the outbreak and the bombing. However, most of these matters were settled outside of the mainstream media, and therefore, this sudden and unheard of aggression of lethal action against American citizens, shrouded by the cover-ups and lack of clarification for the bombings, led to massive outcry and anger from the public. Ultimately, the decision to bomb Raccoon City would end up forcing the President of the United States to resign in disgrace, leaving a massive stain on the American presidency, as well as one of the largest unanswered questions in the history of the country. Yet, the existence of Umbrella and its research would continue in the shadows, for as it would turn out, the reach of Umbrella's horrifying aspiration and influence went much further and much deeper than anyone could have ever anticipated. Hey there, Hazmat here. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Resident Evil. The videos mentioned in the cards aren't ready yet, but they will show up further down the line. I intend for the videos in this series to interlink between one another, allowing them to be sort of a cinematic Wikipedia experience. I guess the future will be a judge on how that turns out. As always, a big thanks goes out to the Hunters Lounge, specifically the exclusive Johnny Sevens, the exclusive Boy Monk, the exclusive Gitchy Boy, the VIPs, Corvo Bear Slayer, Derivative, Doc Powell, Gino Lucero, Goose, Hambone, Jiminel Bob, Corey Peterson, Michael Fornell, Murtiv Menace, Hein, Slip, Stas Piestek, Sunrise Phoenix, TJ Crane, Texas Toast, and the Wizard of Copper. And of course, all the regulars. If you want to support me and the channel, consider signing up as a member of the Hunters Lounge, either here on YouTube or on Patreon, for as little as $1 a month. The link is in the description below. And as always, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.